So Gill, tell us who you are and where you come from.
So I'm a retired psychiatric nurse, and I trained at the Maudsley Hospital, and I've worked all my psychiatric career at the Maudsley Hospital, and that's where I met Professor Gerald Russell and now Professor Janet Treasure. And it's meant that apart from about 2 years in the beginning of my training, I've spent the rest of my time working with people with eating disorders. And I'd never thought about eating disorders as a mental health problem. And when I met the patients, I really liked them. I enjoyed being with them. They're very charming and articulate in comparison with other patients that I've met. And it was just quite a challenging environment to be in, because here you've got young women who are very intelligent, seemingly very intelligent, and yet they're dying. And you have to think of ways of how you're going to help them. And of course, when I first started, as Professor Treasure's mentioned, that there were big research trials about using family therapy. So that when I got the job as a clinical nurse leader in 1993, when Professor Russell retired and Janet Treasure became the consultant, I had to think we weren't doing family therapy anymore. That trial had finished and we didn't have a family therapist on board, and we had to think about ways of how we were going to get information from carers, parents, without it being therapy. Because basically they said to us, we don't want any more family therapy. Don't mention family therapy to us anymore, because to a degree, when it's successful, that's fine. But about 60% of families, it wasn't working, and their daughters or sons had to come into the unit again and again. So we had to find ways of engaging these people. The problem was the patient said to us, "You're not going to talk to my family." We realised that if we didn't find out what was going on at home, then we could work with people however much we wanted to, but we send them home to people who know nothing. So that the in was to train the families. At first, the first idea was to train them to be good listeners. And we spent a day, we called it a carers listening day, and we spent a day just talking about listening. Janet had found a model for us to work with as well, the staff, which was called motivational interviewing. Nowhere in the world, as far as I know, had a model of how to work with people with eating disorders. And so Janet found that model of change and model of how to engage people. And then we were able to develop a way of working which we realised it's pointless just the staff knowing how to do this. We need to work with the carers at home as well. So that in a nutshell is how I got to work with carers. And I have to say to you that working with carers has been far more rewarding than it has been working with patients, who are very grumpy when they're in patients. They're very critical and upset, and it's true that the treatment is quite coercive because it's based around 6 meals a day. And so having somebody who's pleased to be talking to you and wanting to think about change is a real breath of fresh air.
Excellent.